Greetings, my beloved family, on this Shabbat day. One more time, I'd like to share another article with you to show you that the U.S. government and people around the world are well aware of the work and the ministry of the Lord, as you see being demonstrated on the Bakwashar channel and by others around the world, which is the promotion of charity and the claim of our rights to the natural resources, which is our natural birthright, according to Genesis 1:26, of dominion over the earth, everything in it, on it, and of it, and above it, within the atmosphere, okay, and even in the heavens, because the earth is of the heavens. And so this is The Guardian, theguardian.com, and this is an article from last year, 2017, in March. Basic income isn't just a nice idea, it's a birthright. Now, my thoughts on that is that, hey, you don't have to work for money, but if the government is going to provide the money for you to get the things that you need in these stores that's asking for the money, so be it. Don't have a problem with that. Okay, so you need to check this out. This is, I'm going to give the link to this article at the bottom of the description, so you can check it out. But I'm going to point out a few things here. It says, every student learns about Magna Carta, the ancient scroll that enshrined the rights of barons against the arbitrary authority of England's monarchs. But most have never heard of its arguably more important twin, the Charter of the Forest, issued 2 years later in 1217. This short but powerful document guaranteed the rights of commoners to common lands, which they could use for farming, grazing, water, and wood. It gave official recognition to a right that humans nearly everywhere had long presupposed, that no one should be debarred from the resources necessary for livelihood. Okay? So I'll read that last sentence again. Okay, about the Charter of the Forest. It gave official recognition to a right that humans, which is mankind, nearly everywhere had long just presupposed, that no one should be debarred from the resources necessary for livelihood. But this right, the right of habitation, came under brutal attack beginning in the 15th century, when wealthy nobles began fencing off common lands for their own profits. Over the next few centuries, the Enclosure Movement, as it became known, shifted tens of millions of acres into private lands, displacing much of the country's population. Excluded from the basic means of survival, most were left with no choice but to sell themselves for wages for the first time. Should I repeat that again? Okay. Over the next few centuries, okay, and this is, in Europe, it's talking about the commoners. Wealthy nobles began fencing off common lands for their own profit. You seeing how this going and working for the money thing is being explained here in this article. Over the next few centuries, the Enclosure Movement, as it became known, shifted tens of millions of acres into private hands, displacing much of the country's population. Excluded from the basic means of survival, most were left with no choice but to sell themselves for wages for the first time. Now, who were they selling themselves to? These individuals, these so-called nobles and their families who claimed private ownership of what they called it, common lands. And it wasn't only England. The same process unfolded across Asia and Africa and most of the global south, as European colonizers, okay, thieves, staked claim, not the truth, just a claim to lands and forests and waterways that were previously held in common. Okay? It's telling you who the true owners were. Leaving millions, okay, dispossessed. In much of the colonial world, the goal, or at least the effect, was to drive people into the capitalist labor market, where, in exchange for low wages and poor conditions, they and their descendants, who we are today, would power the mines, plantations, and sweatshops for export to the West, where we are here in the so-called Americas today. As the era of colonialism came to an end, the governments of many new independent nations sought to reverse these patterns of historical dispossession with land reform programs, but they were quickly forced to abandon this approach by big foreign landowners, the same people as it mentioned before, and international creditors, okay, like your so-called Federal Reserve Bank shareholders and IMF Bank, World Bank, Bank of International Settlement shareholders / owners, etc. This is your so-called Illuminati, okay? Instead, the new plan for eradicating poverty, the dream of development, came to hinge on drawing people ever deeper into the labor market. You see, they think that you're going to work your way into accomplishing your dream. Jobs came to be hailed as the salvation of the poor. Look at that, man. As the World Bank puts it, jobs are the surest pathway out of poverty. Yeah, right. These people, man. But now this promise is beginning to look hollow. Well, it's been looking hollow. With the rise of robots, robust employment is no longer a realistic hope. You see, and it mentions that in the Book of Lamentations. Okay, in the Book of Lamentations, in the Holy Scriptures, the Old Testament, 3rd chapter, it mentions that. We know that automation is a real threat to jobs in the global north. Talking about North America, Canada. But the threat is much worse in the South. Yeah, South America, Central America. The main industries there, such as small electronics and textile manufacturing, are some of the easiest to automate. According to a United Nations report, up to 2/3 of jobs in developing countries could disappear in the near future. Okay, and this is bitterly painful, particularly for the post-colonial world, which is our world today. First, they were dispossessed of their land and promised jobs instead. Look at these people confessing to the evil that has been done. Okay, they were dispossessed. So you saying that man don't have to don't have a right to go and repossess, okay, the fruits and the vegetables and the things sold in this store made out of the natural resources of the land that belong to them. They confessing the crimes right here. They confessing that they stole the land and dispossessed the people right here. Okay, because they're showing you that who the land really belongs to. It belongs to the people in common. Reading on, their dispossession will be absolute. Okay, see? So I'll read that sentence again. Now they will be dispossessed of their jobs after being promised jobs in exchange for your dispossession. Now you're going to be dispossessed of their jobs, and many will be left with literally no way to survive. Okay, unless you repent and come into the house of the Lord. Okay, their dispossession will be absolute. I will repeat that. They're saying here, their dispossession, the dispossession of the common peoples throughout Canada, North America, Central, South America. The common peoples who have been dispossessed and have been given jobs in exchange. Okay? And you said you're going to lose your jobs. The ones of you who have your jobs now, you're going to lose your jobs over the course of time. And your dispossession of your jobs is going to be absolute. Technological unemployment will almost certainly reverse the modest gains against poverty that have been made over the past few decades, and hunger will likely rise. Governments are scrambling to respond, and they don't have many options. But one stands out as by far the most promising: a universal basic income. This is what they're thinking about. Okay, those of you who depend on the rat race, okay, the rabbit chasing the carrot, the hamster on the wheel, okay, getting your job, working for that paycheck round the clock, trying to get as much hours in so you could get as much money as you can. Listen, all of y'all competing out there, some of y'all are ahead of the others. Listen, everybody is going to be given a basic income. That's what it's coming down to. Okay? Because they're trying to treat everybody fairly as how they see it, in the way that they setting up the system as a corporate structure, worldwide corporate structure. Okay? And they are appropriating the natural resources on the planet to make goods, items, okay, in order to deliver services and things of such nature. And the wealth and the value of these things is going to have to be denominated in the form of some currency, medium of exchange. Okay, and as far as what the people are putting in there, the value that the people put in, okay, is for other people, obviously, for the benefit of others. And so this exchange, which is an equal exchange of value, okay, because one man's value, okay, could be, you know, the value of that depends on the person who's receiving the value. Okay, and so they just coming down to, look, a basic income distribution throughout the world among all peoples in common. This is what they proposing here. Not reading through the whole thing, but let me get to one point. They speaking about Thomas Paine being among the first to argue a basic income should be introduced as a kind of compensation for dispossession. All right? But I want to get down to something here. It's saying here, the Alaska model is popular and effective. The scholars have pointed out that the same approach should be applied to other natural resources, such as forests and fisheries. It could even be applied to the air, with the carbon tax whose yields would be distributed as a dividend to all. See, nobody here probably listening to this video ever receive a dividend check for the government just for being alive. But you ought to receive that, and this is what they're proposing. This is what's supposed to be done with these so-called taxes that they're taking out of your check. But you know what? They don't give it to you because you don't directly deposit the check into the federal treasury, for those of you who work for the federal government, or into the state treasuries for those of you who work in the name of state governments with state ID cards. Okay? You do not give anything to these governments. You do not give all that you have to the government, so you don't get anything from the government to sustain your living. Since you choose to handle it all yourself by depositing it into a Chase bank account or a Bank of America or something, or PayPal or whatever, then you on your own to fend for yourself. You see, you get no distribution from the commons. Because what? Guess what state treasury is? Federal treasury is. That's for the benefit of the commons. But you get no distribution from that in the form of dividends, because you out there claiming ownership of stuff. You using state federal ID documents to go out there and working under those documents, and you claiming ownership of the stuff, and then you claiming ownership of the currency. You're not authorized to do that. Okay? So, but anyway, let me read on. Implementing this idea will require political will. This is what the police officers, the good talk with our brothers in the NYPD video, the brother in the video was bringing out. That he's saying in order to bring about the effect and the change that I'm speaking about in that video, I have to get into politics. But guess what? The movement of Christ, okay, and the teaching of the gospel and the increase of the kingdom of heaven, that's politics. Christ's message is politics. Okay, the overthrowing of the kingdom of the world, okay, and the kingdoms, that's politics. That's done through what? Politics, righteous politics, heavenly politics. Okay, the polity is what? The polity that the politics is based on is the polity of the Commonwealth of. That's the laws, statutes, the commandments of the Most High, broken down into the simple two. Love the Most High with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love each other the way I loved you. You see, that's the basic two right there, and that's the polity of Israel that we set for example for all nations. How you gonna love your neighbor as yourself if you are withholding what's good from your neighbor? If you have skills, if you have talents, if you have strength, if you have energy, you have time, well, that's for the benefit of other people. The gifts that God gave you and blessed you with is for you to share, not for you to sell. Okay, so now there's people that's coming to the realization of that. Reading on, it says that implementing this idea will require political will, but is far from impossible. In fact, some research indicates that it might be politically easier to implement than other social policies. Even in the U.S., leading policymakers, including former Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson and 2 former Republican Secretaries of State, have just put forward a carbon tax and dividend proposal. The idea of a basic income also has broad and growing support from high-profile figures, including Elon Musk and Bernie Sanders. Okay, so you can read on in this article. I'm going to leave the link below. Just wanted to give you another article showing you that I'm not the only one that thinks this way or that has this type of mindset. Okay, this thing is common among people around the world. This mindset that what we own the planet and the natural resources on it. We don't have to work for money for food, clothing, and shelter, and to sustain our lives and have a comfortable lifestyle. Working for money for that, that's wicked, that's evil. Okay, that's totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. So that's the point I wanted to bring out there, my family. Okay, that's the point I wanted to bring out. Peace, blessings, and be safe.